Welcome. I'm Elle Ingalls, host of this series called the Pressure Free Interview Series. I'm interviewing all sorts of leadership and mental performance coaches from around the country and Australia and Canada over how many days am I doing this? 15 days. There are going to be 15 recordings. And we're on week two. We're finishing up week two. We've got Grant Dziak here today. So, Grant, I'm so glad you're on this series with me.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me on. Like when you asked me to do this, I was like, what an honor.
So Grant and I met over a year ago. He came into my program. We've been coaching together, and it's just been really, really amazing. So I would love for you to share a bit about your story, Grant. Who are you? And then we'll dive in. I know you have some great strategies and some tips you can share with people. You do some very interesting stuff. So let's just dive in.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. Um, I'm Grant. I'm from Port Clinton, Ohio, like a small town in right up dead center in the north of Ohio, right on Lake Erie. Um, and then I lived there until I was 19 years old, and then I moved down to Columbus to go play at the Ohio State University. No offense, Al. And then so I played there, and right when I got done with that, I ran bars and restaurants for about 10 years. And throughout that whole process, like I loved it so much. And somewhere in the between in there, I went from being about a 320 pound guy, where, getting done playing football and calling myself an athlete still. And somewhere along the lines, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, I'm not an athlete anymore, looking at the way I look. And it was more the way I felt. And I hit this point where I was just like, man, there's got to be so much more. And so in 2014, so about 11 years ago now, I went from like 310 pounds and I dropped down to about 220. And I did that in like 5 months. And now I don't like encourage anybody to do that in general, but that was also part of the whole process of learning how, because I didn't understand nutrition fully yet. And about a year after that, I just kind of started working with clients, fitness clients. So I was doing fitness coaching. I'd like help people with fitness my entire life. I'd been around fitness my entire life, even though I kind of like let myself go at that point. Um, but I'd gotten it all back and I was in the best shape of my life. And I think on a Thursday, I talked to my buddy that owned the gym. And on a Thursday, we had kind of decided, because I didn't really know exactly what route I wanted to go. He had owned a huge supplement company. I didn't know which route I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to do something in fitness. I was so much more passionate about that. And he just kind of was like, "Why don't you train clients?" And I was like Ralphie in A Christmas Story. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. I had like no idea. And he goes, I remember he said on a Thursday night, he said, "Okay, so it's going to be a long process. You're going to have to give away a whole bunch of sessions. You're going to have to train a whole bunch of people for free, get a whole bunch of testimonials, build up your resume, and then people will start coming to you." So I went into the bar that night. I was still working at the bars. And Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like I was just talking to people and like I'd created such great relationships with people down there that by Monday morning I had over 65 clients. And I had no idea how to do it, how everything was set up. And then a couple of months later, I did a bodybuilding show. And just from the stress of that, I started condensing people down into groups. And I was like, oh, I was like, this is so much easier. And it took me a couple more years, and then I moved into the online space. But it was pretty quick that I realized that I didn't really care about telling people like sets, reps, how to like get abs and stuff. Like that was all cool, and I knew people wanted that.
Mhm.
But I didn't fully understand yet why, but I just knew that like when I'd have someone down in a 6 minute plank, all of a sudden they'd start like crying and talking about how they're cheating on their husband or their wife, or they have a bad relationship with their kids, or they hate their job. And I was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I was like, forget all the fitness stuff. Like, I don't need the middleman. What if I could just go directly to people? But I didn't know how to do that yet. And then, so it hit like 2017. I was making the most money I'd ever made. I was doing great. I had a ton of online clients. I was still like bartending on the weekends. They gave me a beautiful setup. I was making more money than ever, and I was depressed. I didn't grow up with very much. Um, like we didn't like money wasn't like a big thing for us. And so to me, growing up, I always thought if I made a lot of money, I'd be great. Like I'd have everything. Only to then make a lot of money and be like, oh my gosh, this is just like I still have all the exact same problems. Like this doesn't actually solve anything except I can pay my rent a lot easier. So went from that when a buddy of mine who had played in the NFL was launching a new business because he retired and he wanted me to go into it. So I went in on that with him. Didn't do any of the due process with anything, didn't like cover myself in any way. And all the while, my family's like, make sure you sign contracts, make sure you're covered. And I'm like, oh, he's my best friend. He'll never do anything like that. And sure enough, man, we hit the ground running a million miles an hour. I think in 4 days of signups, we had like 5,000 clients sign up. And it was a virtual program. And I'll tell you what, I went 7 months not getting paid. And then I decided, I was like, I can't do this. I'm not going to build somebody else's empire for them.
Oh,
And he was the
yeah.
face of everything. And I was building everything. It was all my ideas, it was all my intellectual property. And what I realized, and this was, I started doing it in the bars with like the people that I worked with. But with him, it actually started coming so much more to the surface is I could look at his behaviors and all of a sudden I started picking up, I could like see in his past that based on the things I'd known about him, I was like, I can see why you're doing this now and what it's making up for in your past. Like laying down a banana peel on top of a trash can in an 8,000 or no, an $18,000 a month mansion that they lived in, instead of just putting it inside because he could walk back later and see that someone else had cleaned up his mess for him, which related right back to filling the void of for going whatever, 4 or 5 years in college plus 10 years in the NFL. So about 15 years having someone clean up everything for you, a towel boy, clean up
Right.
everything.
Oh, this is
And
really, really interesting. Like, this is a
well, when
very important point right here.
and when I started realizing, I felt like I could see it. I felt like almost like Rain Man, like all the things were laying out almost like a map in front of me. I was like, I can see why you do this, where this comes from. And then I was like, that makes so much sense now. Why you destroy the business and now I have to clean it up all the time. You do all these things every week that are just like last minute. You create a mess that somebody else has to clean up, except I'm the only other person. So I'm the one cleaning up the mess. So I'm not doing this anymore. So at 30, I think I was 31 at that time. It was the beginning of 2018. And I just looked at him and was like, man, I'm not going to build somebody else's empire for them. And he was like, man, I want to support you. Think about what it is you want to be compensated for everything you did. And long story short, it took a month to get this sorted out. And essentially, I walked away with nothing.
Oh,
And at this point,
wow.
I'd gone 7 months with no income. I burned through my savings. And at 31 years old, I was broke and I had nothing. And I was, I don't know if you want to say depressed. I was very down on myself. Like I doubted myself a lot because
Yeah.
I didn't know who to turn to because I didn't want to go to my family and be like, hey, just so you know, everything you told me was absolutely correct. And I know I'm way too optimistic about everything all the time and I give everyone the benefit of the doubt.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't listen to anything you said. But of course, I had to because at that point, my mom had to help me get my truck out of the repo lot after she couldn't pay the car payment on it for the third month in a row. And I was struggling so bad to get myself going. Like I couldn't figure out and I was so mad at myself and I was sad that I just lost someone who I felt was like a brother to me.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
this goes on for a while. Flash forward about 7 months, and all of a sudden, like I have no idea what hit me one day. Like I would struggle. I would sit down to a computer every day, and I'm like, okay, create something. You got so much. This is all you. You can do this. And I'd sit down. I just sit there for like hours, and I'm like, nothing. Nothing's coming to me. And then one night, I just picked up my phone. I have no idea why I did this, and well, actually, there's one part that I skipped. Earlier that year, when I was really going through it all, after I just parted ways with him, um, I had heard Gary Vaynerchuk say a line that said, "When you own all your own shortcomings, they have no power over you." And
Oh, nice. Okay. When you own all your own shortcomings, they have no power over you.
yeah, yeah. And I had so much shame at that point because I'm like, here I am. I'm trying to be this person that helps everyone else, but I can't even help myself. My mom's paying for my car. Like I have no money. I screwed myself over in this whole thing. And I was like, own your own shortcomings. How can I do that? And I was like, oh, no. So I pull up my phone and I literally start talking to my phone. And I post a video on Instagram that morning. And it was like all about me. It was targeting me. It was calling out all the shameful things about myself.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I posted, and I was like, oh my God, like what did I do? And I went into the gym and I totally forgot about it, actually. And I come out of the gym and I didn't really have service. It was a new gym I was going to. I didn't even have the Wi-Fi connected to it. So like I come out, so I wasn't getting anything. And I come out and I get all these messages in my DMs, and it was all these people responding. They're like, oh my God. They're like, I feel this exact same thing all the time. And a lot of them were like people that I admired, I looked up to, who I thought were like way above me. And then I was like, man, I was like, that's crazy. And so I had all conversations all day long with these people. And I started feeling so fulfilled for the first time. And then the next day, I kind of was like, well, let's try it again. And I did it again, and it's the same response. And I kept doing it every single day. And finally, I started calling it a morning rant, like kind of playing on my name. And once,
So
and
good.
and within a couple weeks, I started having like getting responses like people being like saying things along the lines of, I was like about to take my own life, and this just gave me formulation to what I was struggling with. Like, thank you. And at that point, I was like, oh my God, I was like, I've got so much in me that I just want to share. And I started just doing this every single day, but I had no idea how to monetize it in any way. I had no idea what to do with it. And I didn't even want to at that point. And it got to the point, so that was in February. It got to the point about July where I started having people be like, what do you do? What do you offer? Like, do you sell anything? Do you have anything? I feel like I want to just give you money. And I was like, I'm like, no, not really. And I was like, whatever. So by August, it hit me. And this is back to where I was. I stood up, I picked up my phone, and I almost remember exactly what I said. I just started recording a video, and I was like, whether it's business coaching, fitness coaching, relationship advice, whatever it is, um, there's one thing I've come to realize about people, and it's that we all do really good in one or two areas of our lives, and we really struggle in like three to four of them. And but what we can do is we can use that one as a metaphor. So I'm so excited. To announce I'm going to take on 9 clients. And this isn't going to be like what you see with the fitness coaches. There's not going to be like before and after. Like you probably won't even see anything about these individuals. So it's going to be very private for them. I was structuring the entire idea of it because I was so scared nobody was going to sign up. And I didn't want people to be expecting to see transformation photos or pictures or hear things.
Right.
So when nobody heard anything, I was like, oh, that'll make sense to them then. And they'll be like, oh, that's why we're not hearing anything. And within, I think I was going to do signups for like a week, and I ended up with over 600 people that applied. And I was just like, oh my God. And I was so naive about it that I was like, I'm still going to just take on 9. I could have crushed it, but I took on 9. Anyways, get up to the night before I'm launching it, and it's supposed to start the next day. And I was like, I don't know what platform I'm going to do. I started and burned to the ground like 5 different concepts already. And then I was like, why am I overthinking this so much? All these people came to me because they see me talk to them every day on social media. But what if that's all they need? And now that's all I actually need back from them. And I don't know why, but I need to see their body. I need to see how they're moving. I feel like I can tell whether they're telling the truth or not.
Right.
So what I said was, I was like, we're going to simplify this so much. To those 9 individuals, I sent them all a video, a personalized like morning rant every single day. And all they had to do is shoot me a video back, and I had no idea. I was just like panicked. I was like, I don't know. I'm trying to make money. But what happened is it happened in 3 phases. The first 4 weeks, it was a 12-week program. The first 3 weeks or the first 4 weeks, everyone's like, this is so weird to like see my face on video. Then the next 4 weeks, everyone's like, I hate the way I look. I'm seeing all these things I hate about myself. And the last 4 weeks, everyone's like, this is absolutely amazing. Like, I love me. Like, I love seeing, I know what I look like, and I'm speaking up in meetings and I'm talking more. People were like getting promotions of their jobs, and they were seeing attributes about themselves. And the coolest thing that I realized is like people couldn't lie to themselves. They're looking at themselves on screen, trying to tell me their truth, but it wasn't their truth. It was the story they had told the world. And they would catch themselves in the middle of it. They'd be like telling it, and then they kind of look at this. You could just see them look at the screen. They see themselves and they call themselves out. They're like, that's not even what I wanted to say.
Oh yeah.
Now it's like,
I want to share
oh,
something about that
yeah,
because I had a client when COVID hit, I moved everything to Zoom, and because before then I would coach in person as well. Then when we could coach in person again, I stayed in this format because I had a client say to me, first of all, they'd never seen themselves on camera, and now they're on camera with me, right? And as I'm coaching them, they can see themselves. So they can see their own face change and their own body language change as they're telling me things. And I can point it out and say, did you see that? Like, because we don't see ourselves.
yeah,
So
totally.
it's powerful. Oh, that's really, really cool what you did.
So flash forward from all that, and then over the years, it's evolved so incredibly much. I've learned so much more. I understand so much more. It's like I had all the parts, I just didn't have the formulation. I was like, I know I need to see their body, but I couldn't understand why. Well, now I know it's because this is your subconscious, this is your feeling state. Your body will respond. It holds the wisdom. You can consciously tell me whatever you want, but I'm going to see it in your behavior, your movement, your action, whether or not you're full of crap or not. And I can call you out on it immediately. And then ended up getting into a relationship in 2019, and was with her for 5 years. And we ended up getting a divorce last year. And um, last year became the most difficult year of my life. And it's funny because I think every time that I've talked to you, I'm like, I don't really cry anymore, but it's because of you. Like, you are one of the three individuals who helped me so incredibly much last year. Like, like truly, like as I sit here looking out the window at the beautiful California coastline, like all these palm trees and everything's so beautiful. And I'm like, man, part of the only reason that I can enjoy this is because of everything I went through. And it like gave me such a contrast to life. And it was a very difficult 5 years, and last year was the topped them all. And it was 1 year ago today that me and my ex-wife decided we were separating. And a couple days later, my 16-year-old dog passed away. And then she headed back to Houston, where she's from, and she took our other 14-year-old Boston Terrier with her, and he had a seizure on the way, and he ended up passing away. And it was this really bizarre thing that in a matter of like 3 weeks, I lost my family. Like anything that I would have had as my comfort zone, as a support, and it just like this band-aid got ripped off so incredibly hard. And it was almost so overwhelming, like I didn't know what to do. And it was like, you're trying to teach me pressure free, and I'm just like, you gotta just be my therapist every time we got on the call. But it was everything that I needed. And so for you, that to you, I'm so incredibly grateful. And when I look at my life today, like I really had to go through it last year, and it went all the way up until December. And I kind of knew it at the time. I was like, there's a reason I'm experiencing all of this. And I know there's a reason. It's like all the things that you can say to yourself consciously, but you're like, I don't feel that at all. It still feels
Right?
absolutely awful.
Right.
Uh, but I knew it was going to be something that would help me, that there would be, even if it was just one person somewhere in my future that I work with, that I'm going to be able to help on, because I can connect to them on such a deeper level because of what I've experienced,
Right, yeah.
that it's going to be something they're struggling with. And it's already come up in like 4 or 5 different clients that I've worked with. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm so incredibly grateful for all of it. Like, I look at myself today and I'm a completely different person than I was a year ago. And it's reflected into my work. It's reflected into my lifestyle, the way everything I do, I mean, and it's so cool because of the way I get to work with my clients now and empower them and the things I emphasize to them because of what I've learned, the importance of what I need to emphasize within myself.
Mhm. Oh, it's so beautiful. Okay, there's been a lot of real nuggets in here as you've been talking. And one of them was when you were working in the bars
Hmm.
and how many real connections you made to have, was it 65 people want
Yeah.
to work with
Yeah.
you in a
Yeah.
weekend?
Yeah.
Like that links back to our speaker yesterday, Steve Spiro, all about connection, real connection.
Yeah.
That when you develop real connection and then you just start putting yourself on camera in real connection, right?
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
this theme coming through of, and I know you, I mean, I've been with you in person too, like it's like connection is a really big thing. And it's interesting when you go into business with someone who's a friend, which,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's another thing too, you know.
Yeah.
And you cared about this person as much as a brother, so we've got again connection kind of going through this. And the fact that we do learn from a bunch of crap. We do.
Right.
And we do get to bring that forward with our clients. That's another really beautiful point too. I love
Well,
it.
I think kind of like building off what Steve was talking about last night about connection and real vulnerable connection is, I think the word I mean, there's a lot of words around personal development now that are I think have become very, very bastardized.
Me
People
too.
just use them, they throw them around, they don't really know what it means. And everyone's just kind of like using it as their own pseudo psychology thing. And that's, whatever floats everyone's boat. But the idea of vulnerability is like people treat vulnerability like it's this, I'm going to give you this gift of my vulnerability. So vulnerability alert. And it's like, no, vulnerability is for you. Like it's vulnerable for me to go stand on stage and speak in front of 5,000 people. Those 5,000 people, when I step off, maybe they'll be moved by something I said, but I'm the one with the high. That vulnerability gave me the high. When you are vulnerable, you're the one who gets to experience that huge dopamine release of it. And I feel like there's got to definitely be levels of oxytocin involved because it creates that connection with you because you can feel it from other people. Because I think we are in this glamorized social media world that I feel like it is kind of starting to tip a little bit, where everyone used to want to connect over, look at my Lamborghini and my mansion and all my fancy things and all my money.
Mhm.
And it's like that's cool and all, but like at the end of the day, what I believe bonds us all is our pain. And it's our pain that is created in the disconnect between us and our human needs and the way we've all gone about trying to fulfill those needs. And that's really what I think causes us pain in life. So at the end of the day, we actually are, no matter where we're from, what our background is, what we've experienced, we can all relate to one another. And if you can find the happy medium between the whole idea of like misery loves company, like just complaining to people that complain, but realizing it's like I can feel you, and because I'm not you, I can create that same emotional resonance in me without the emotional attachment that you have, which means I can see it in you, which I can guide you. So could you maybe give me some direction? Which is all the coaches essentially. It's someone outside of you that can tap into you to be you, to feel it. Same way, like you can sit there and you can clean all day long, and someone can walk in and they go, "Hey, you missed a spot," the second they see it, and you're like, "Oh my God." And
Right.
it's like because you can't see you can't see the forest through the trees. Like you can't see it all when you're the one living it and experiencing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really true. That's really true. And it's a reason why it can be really impactful to hire a coach, to have
Yeah.
someone who's not in your family, someone who's not in your friend set, who can really see you and doesn't have they don't have attachment, so they can provide that unconditional support for you because there's no attachment to it. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And
Mhm.
someone who has a very high level of awareness because I think there's a big I mean, I work with a lot of coaches and like as clients, and one of the biggest things I've come to realize is there are so many, like, it seems like everybody's a coach, a mentor, a guide, a healer, or something now with this title to it. And I think it's because all of us have gone through, everybody's gone through something. Everybody has a story.
Yeah.
And I always relate it to the fitness industry because what you get is you get like, and I'll say a girl, for example, because I feel like that's who gets poached the easiest by like a coach back in the day. And it was this very, very linear progression that you'd see happen. It would be someone walking to the gym, they're very new to the gym, and maybe they have a great structure to them. Not a lot of muscle yet, but a coach would see them and they'd be like, ooh, for them, meal tickets. So they're like, hey, you should do a show. And they're like, I should? Okay. So
Oh,
then I'm going to coach you. And then they coach them through and everything, and they get leaner and leaner and leaner. And they're posting all their photos on Instagram, getting all the validation. Everyone's like, oh my God, look at you. You look amazing. They do the show, great, everything's done. But then what? They get done, and all of a sudden they're not getting leaner and leaner and leaner. They're not getting that validation anymore. They're not feeling that sense of relevancy and importance anymore. And but you do have these people going like, "How'd you do it? Oh my gosh, like what do you eat? How do you do these things?" And they go, "Oh, well, I feel important if I tell people these things, even though they might not fully know how to do it yet themselves. They
right,
had
right.
someone telling them how to do it. So they go, "Oh, I think the next thing is I should be a coach."
Yeah.
And it's like so you go so you like and then you have all these issues happening in the fitness coaching space of uh, um, unhappy clients and people that are ripping people off and selling programs but not following through. And it's because like it was a nobody realized how expedited that route went from a novice gym lifter to all of a sudden now you're in business for yourself and you're an entrepreneur. And
Right.
those that like so I think that smoothed out a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but you get
Yeah.
so many coaches who are actually working with clients to give themselves self a sense of validation to escape their own stuff. And a lot of times, some of them, it's just textbook. They haven't actually lived it. And so it's the ability to have that discernment because I think there's a million people out there. I think a lot of people have so much love in their heart, and I think people really do have a good intentions with stuff.
Hmm.
But as someone who's looking to hire a coach, you definitely have to be able to use your discernment because if you're already at the
Yes.
point of looking to hire a coach, there's a point in you that has a point of desperation because you go, I know I can be better. I know there's more for me. And when we're at that point, we're like, we want it now,
Yeah,
especially like high achievers and top performers.
that's right. It's interesting too. And from the other side of that, I always do a free discovery call with people. And part of it is for me to decide if this works with this person. Maybe they need deeper therapy. I'm not a therapist. There's some coaches who slide into they slide over those lines, but being very clear. And I teach my certification people that, like, be very clear about what you do. Be
Right.
very clear about what it is. And if you're not living in your, walking your talk and living your thing, it's, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really curious to me. And it's even like so many people coaching youth sports. And I mean, I was a phys ed major for a year at Michigan. I was in coaching clinics with Bo Schembechler. Like I was learning how to coach, right?
Mhm.
And so few people, like they're just like the mom or dad of the team, right? But they've never actually gone through anything to learn how to be a coach.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
it's tricky.
Well, I
It's
mean,
tricky.
I think you experience that a lot in business also is I do a lot of consulting with a lot of businesses, and what you see a lot of the time is like maybe you're in charge of this thing and you do this one job and you do it really, really well, and then you get promoted and you get promoted to being in charge of the people who were are now doing what you once did. But you don't necessarily that doesn't necessarily come with the knowledge and the skill set of how to lead. And so now you have this dilemma. So this individual ends up just doing the job themselves over and over and over to go, "Ah, I can do it better than you. Let me show you how it's done," as opposed to leading. And
Mhm.
I think that's kind of the same mechanism that happens is there's a big change from like I'm the one that's getting coached to now I'm going to coach someone else.
Yeah.
And for those individuals to have that discernment for themselves, when am I being self-righteous? When am I trying to cope with something that I've dealt with or pain I'm feeling? And I'm like kind of using my client for that, you know?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. It's so fascinating. So you do a lot of interesting things. Give me two nuggets to close out here. Like, what are two tips or strategies you want to share with someone that you think would be helpful?
The number one thing I always tell like people to always say, no matter even if you're in like a great spot or if you're feel like you're at the bottom of the barrel, like rock bottom is like you can always say to yourself, there's always a better way to live. Like there's always better. Like there's always something more I can do. And that's not in a like a perfectionist sense. That's like maybe you've crushed all your dreams. There's still more you can do. Like you can create new dreams. You can have more. And it's like, what do we always say when we're at the bottom? We're like, man, like I'm doing everything I can, and you know you're not. But it's like if you just if you change your psyche to realizing like there's so much more for me. Like I can have so much more. There's a better way to live. There's a better way to experience life, and there's a better way to feel. And that kind of it's kind of two in one because part of that is also you can't think greater than how you feel. And we're in this age where everyone talks about mindset all the time, and there definitely is a very valuable piece to that. But we're also like, if you wake up and you feel horrible every day, like you are not in an optimal position to try to think greater than what you're currently experiencing. So
Yeah.
you have to take care of your health. I think, we went through the whole like, let's be super fit. Then we went through the like, let's just love our body no matter what, which I don't think is right either. Like, I'm not all about that because I think that's a cop out and I think that's an excuse. Because if you aren't physically capable of doing the things you want to do in life, do you really love your life? Like, no, you're limited. And
Mhm.
that's not throwing any shade. It's that everyone's so capable and
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and we can feel so much better. But it doesn't mean you have to walk around with a six pack and bulging biceps. It's that you're like you get one body. You get one body throughout this life, and this vessel is what's going to carry you through everything. Like, why not bedazzle this thing to the best you possibly can? Why not optimize it? Like, if you're an astronaut, you can't walk in outer space without a spacesuit on. And it's like, so I'm sure before you go out for a spacewalk, you're checking every last thing to make sure there's no tears in it, there's no leaks, that the oxygen's full, that everything's good. But yet we just want to roll out of bed, like look at Instagram on our phone each morning, drink some coffee, and go to work. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, man, you gotta like be willing to give yourself a little bit of time. And the more you communicate that to yourself, the more you're gonna feel a sense of worth.
Hmm. Hmm. That's really interesting. I want to close out with um, the fact that you've been my client. And before we came on here, you and I were talking about skin.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would just love for you to give a couple reflections of what has changed since you and I have worked together. What have you
Yeah.
seen?
So I think it was last November, November of 23. Um, it was my ex-wife and I, we were traveling with this company, Therasage, and we were doing all these events. We were traveling all over. And I remember I was in New York and we were getting ready to go out to dinner. And I walked past the mirror and just kind of like did a once over to make sure my outfit was okay. And I like looked in the mirror and I was just like, I'm like looking at my face and I felt like in Hook where he's like pulling his face and he's like trying to smooth it out. And I'm like, what is this? I'm like, who am I? And it was the first time I ever just like looked at myself and I was like my skin looked awful. I was wrinkles and like I looked old. Like I looked like I had aged so much. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my gosh. And and I'm not saying it's her fault. I'm saying
Right.
as soon as my ex-wife and I separated, I started noticing and I hated how good I felt. And she had expressed the same thing. We're both like, man, like, and it just goes to show that when you live with so much stress in your life and negative emotion and bad feeling and even not saying and speaking the words that you want to say, it manifests in your physical body. You see it whether you have breakouts or skin rashes, hair loss. I'm like, I'm still fighting that, but that's a different story. But
It's a
like,
genetic
but
thing.
but like, I look in the mirror now and I feel like I've reverse aged like 10 years. Like I look younger now than I did at like 27. And I'm sorry, 28. That was 10 years. I'm like, I was like, let's give a couple extra years. But it's like, you know, what you and I are talking about is like it truly is. It's like being pressure free, like not walking around with this like. And to me, when I think of pressure free, I think of that feeling in your body where it's like you're just full of so much crap and emotion, and it's like pushing up at the walls of your body, and it's just like it feels uncomfortable, and it turns into inflammation, and actually feels like you're about to explode. But all of that stuff expresses itself in these physical attributes. So when you can become pressure free, when you can relieve that stress from your life, when you can put yourself into a state where you're optimized and you feel good and you're like, you wake up, like I wake up and I'm like, I love my life. Like I love my life now. It's like it reflects and it's the whole combination. It's like waking up and you're like, ah, feels good. And you walk to the mirror to brush your teeth and you see yourself and you're like, hey guy, how you doing? And it's like as opposed to like, oh God, I don't want to look at myself. And that's the point I had gotten to like at the beginning of last year. I was just like I almost didn't even want to like look at myself because I was like, oh my God, like what kind of surgeries do I need to get done to my body right now? Because my face looks bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the things like, I mean, I don't have any lines here. There's no lines. I have no 11 line, right?
Yeah.
And I was showing like I used to have all these little red bumps on the back of my arms. Like my skin
Yeah.
was terrible.
Yeah.
My hands were horrible, and now my hand is like amazing. I'll be
Well,
six,
it's
I'll
just
be
like even
63
right
this year.
now, like anyone listening to this is like, just take a second, like let an exhale out and relax your low back. Like let yourself feel supported by the chair, whatever you're sitting in, and just because it's like to me, it's just one of those things like, man, if you can just anecdotally experience a moment of being like, oh, I didn't I didn't realize I was tense right now. I didn't realize I was holding like tension in my body. And as soon as
Hmm.
you realize that, you're like, oh my gosh, I live like that
All
chronically
day.
all the time, like
Yeah.
all day long. And we're just so
Jaw
used to it now.
tension, all the things.
Yeah.
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 Well, Grant, this has
So
been so wonderful. We're going to close out so we can open for questions and answers in the Zoom room. And I'm just so glad that you were willing to come on here tonight and share your
thank you so much
story.
for
And
having me.
you do great things. So how can people get a hold of you, Grant?
So you can, I do, I'm one of those people, I run like everything through Instagram. So it's just Grant Dziak on Instagram. Reach out to me, DM me. I love talking to people. I love interacting with people. I try to get back to all my DMs, um, as long as they're not too creepy. But
Right.
outside of that, or I'm on Facebook all the time. You can email me at grant@grantdziak.com. I mean, that's about it. I mean, if you find me on Instagram, that's you can contact me anyway through that.
Perfect. All right, I'm going to stop here and thanks everybody for tonight. And we'll be going again on Monday night for those of you who come on live.